Hi, and welcome back to Criminology. Now we're going to start on the theories of crime. And the first one we're going to look at is what's called choice theory. And the the content associated with that is because they want to. So let's just get started here. In the next few weeks, we're going to explore a few theoretical approaches to criminology. The why do people commit crime is essentially what the theories are about. Now, I am aware not everyone sees the value of theories because they appear to be many and varied and sometimes not always easy to understand. They're not always very practical for some people's perspective and not always very real to life, but too many to make some sense of. So here's how I would want you to consider looking at them. However, the theories are derived from research and ultimately are data and fact driven and can influence a whole lot of areas of our lives, from social policies to laws, education, even our personal lives and perspective. So one thing to consider when looking at theories is to imagine that the theories as wearing a different colored pair of sunglasses. Each different color of sunglasses gives a slightly different view of the landscape that you're looking at. Like sunglasses, theories are differing views of what is being studied. Not any one theory is more right or correct than another. However, some theories have more research and study completed to strengthen their theory. So going forward, remember, these theories are research-based and have been studied for many years. You don't need to accept all the theories. All I'm asking you to do is do your best to try on each pair of sunglasses, look at each theory, and look around. Just sort of see what that might mean. Now, maybe one will suit you better than maybe another, or maybe you will see the value of several. Theories will help us gain more of a well-rounded understanding of the world around us and based on facts and research rather than just our belief without any foundation in a fact. Now, the first pair of sunglasses, or the first theory that we're going to consider, is one known as choice theory. And it's based on the notion that, choice means you wanted to. So with this theory, we're going to review the foundations of choice theory. We will then look at how they consider crime prevention and control. And then lastly, we'll consider how does choice theory, how has it, if it has, influenced the criminal justice policy. Okay, now this chapter introduces us to the principles of rational choice theory and the implications of our current criminal justice system. Rational choice theory has its foundation in the classical school of criminology. Now, if you remember from the chapter 1 on classical school of criminology, which contends that people freely choose to engage in criminal behavior and that the primary reason people commit crime is because it's more attractive alternative than law-abiding behavior. In other words, a person decides to commit a particular crime after concluding that the benefits or the pleasure outweighs the risks and the effort or the pain. I'm bringing that pleasure principle, plain pleasure thing up because it applies here. Oftentimes we get into a perspective that something is good because the pleasure outweighs the pain. Take for example, you go to Tim Hortons and you've got a weight issue. You're consciously aware that, maybe I could lose some weight. But you go to the Tim Hortons and you're waiting in line and all you can see are donuts. And the donuts give you this momentary, short-term pleasure. That would be good. I love an apple fritter, And so that's the short-term pleasure. The long-term pain associated with that apple fritter is when I finished eating it, I regret having had it. It makes me feel maybe full, and maybe I know I'm not doing the best for my body, and now I'm not even working that hard at getting my weight down. The way that you'd want to switch it would be to make the saying no to the donut easier. That would be the short-term pain. The long-term pleasure would be that you didn't have the donut. So in this instance, we're looking at that some people find there's an immediate pleasure, and that pleasure of committing the crime outweighs what they perceive as the pain. All right, so a more contemporary view of rational choice theory, we can look at factors that frame what is rational choice theory. The specific words in the title are very telling. Rational. This essentially means logical, thoughtful line of thinking. You didn't just willy-nilly come up with it, and it's not something that you hadn't thought about. So that's rational. Choice, it's pretty clear. One chooses to either do or don't. There is no try, there is only do. Yoda. So do or don't, or even deciding between several options, but it's still a choice. So we're going to review rational choice theory factors. And we're going to begin with the structuring of criminology. Now this factor is regarding the choosing when, where, and other issues as to committing a crime. If everyone held the belief that the return for criminal activity was low, and there were many legitimate and available opportunities, there would likely be very little crime because everyone would choose the legitimate activities. However, offenders may think a little differently than some of us. They often believe that there will be a big score that will result from commitment of the crime. In addition, their own experiences and learning can be critical elements in the structuring of crime. So if we look at some of the structuring of crime involves two primary variables. One is choosing a place, strategic. Maybe you need help from your friends, and you need to have a good view of the area. So that's about choosing the place. And secondly, it's choosing the target. Now, environmental survey for opportunities, we can see the example in your textbook there. But choosing targets involves who looks like they'll be most vulnerable, what opportunities for the environment am I looking for, where I could best have these opportunities for choosing targets. And so one of the other components you have to kind of wonder about then around this rationality, is crime really rational? Well, some crimes are very well thought out and consider a certain amount of expertise to carry out the plans. One notable one that's identified in your textbook are fraud. A lot of the Ponzi scams and pyramid scams require a lot of thought and expertise in order to run them reasonably successfully. Well, what about street crimes? Are they rational? Well, some are easy to see that they are. Not just street crime, setting the stage, reviewing the environment, and your exit plan, who your target will be, all takes thought and planning to avoid getting caught and to be successful in the crime. So if in the process of committing a crime, you have asked someone to look out, you be my lookout, someone to monitor the police scanner, all of which is planning and being knowledgeable of the risks to avoid. So it makes it rational in that you've taken the time to think. Is drug use rational? Well, in some cases, yes. Dealers sell a product. They're concerned about competition from other dealers. Moving in on their territory sounds a little legitimate, as in other legal businesses doing somewhat the same. So why do people commit crimes? Well, from From a rational choice perspective, why do people choose crime knowing that there are negative and unpleasant consequences? Basically, criminologists in this theory consider that for many people, crime is more attractive than law-abiding behaviors are. There are a couple of terms that we can apply here. One is known as edge work, and the other is seduction of crime. And let's just broaden this out a little bit. Edge work. As many offenders describe as a high from their criminal behavior, this is what is meant by the term edge work. You feel like you're on a fine line, or you're on an exhilarating thrill. You're on the edge of something that you need to be very conscious of your here and now, and it gets very exciting. So that's what the edge work component is, that it provides a bit of that, and it's a bit of a thrill. The seduction of crime, well, this term, it relates to the immediate benefits that draw offenders into law violation. The short-term pleasure, as I was mentioning, not the long-term pain. They focus on the short-term pleasure. An interesting perspective with rational choice is that if crime is a rational choice, it could mean that prevention and crime management, or the reduction of crime, could occur by convincing offenders that the crime is not a good choice. These strategies target the rationality of the belief with new data that challenges their rationality that it's doable and plausible and pleasurable to there's risks. So next we will look at a variety of crime reduction or control strategies based on the rationality of crime. The SCP, or the Situational Crime Prevention, was introduced in 1980 by criminologist Ronald Clark. Now he found that increasing the risk and reducing the rewards associated with specific categories of crime. Now he analyzed the data regarding the when, the where, and how crimes occur, essentially identifying risk factors, thus better enabling predictions of crime and therefore trends. Now you may remember the routine activities theory from chapter 3, where there is 3 components that increase the likelihood of criminal behavior: a motivated offender, suitable target, and the lack of guardianship. The point here for crime reduction is that any one of these 3 components is compensated for, the whole triad collapses. The following framework is the foundation underlying the many techniques. The categories include what we'll see in table 4.2, and increase the effort needed to commit the crime, increase the risks of committing the crime, and reduce the awards for committing the crime. That those will contribute, along with the reduction of the provocations for committing the crime, and remove the excuse for engaging in the crime. All right, so there's 5 crime reduction strategies using the rational. Now, if we're going to convince you to not commit the crime, here are 5 things we should be considering. Even should the strategies and tactics appear on the surface to be entirely effective, it is important to note that there are also potential unforeseen and unwanted consequences that can result from their use, such as displacement, extinction, discouragement, and diffusion. Let's look at those individually. So these would be the things that could go wrong with these strategies. The first was displacement. Displacement is building up the police presence in a particular area, may displace crime to another area. And that, of course, would break down that solution. Extinction, even as one strategy appears to be effective, criminals may adjust to the new conditions and find another way around it. And that would be extinction. Discouragement, this is a strategy that discourages one target and also reduces other types of crime as well. And then diffusion of benefits. This is when the efforts to prevent one crime unintentionally prevent another, or when crime control in one area reduces crime and another non-targeted area. So it's really just getting into this that we're starting to get a feel for, the choice theories, although, you and I, who may not be involved in any criminal activity, might not see how you would see crime as a choice and that it would have benefits, but it can for some people. Now, this brings us to an end of part 1. In part 2, we're going to continue by exploring the role of general and specific deterrence as it relates to rational choice theory. Then a little time on the concepts of incapacitation. Now, we're finished part 2 by considering the policies and considerations that the rational choice has had on policy development. And we'll do that with most of our theories as we proceed. All right, so good luck, and we'll catch you up in part 2 of choice theory. Bye now.